People are genuinely upset about this gender switch, and I need to talk about this. What's good, YouTube? It's Amari, and I am back with another video. Today, guys, we got a bit of a different style going on. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about Francesca and Michaela, Francesca and Michael, or at least that's what everybody's wanting. So if you're not super familiar with Bridgerton, I'm going to give you a quick backstory. So if those of you that are familiar, you can skip ahead and you can get right into the tea. Bridgerton is an original Netflix series that is based in the Regency era, 1810 to 1822. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are 4 seasons, and all the seasons are based around siblings finding love. I have 8 siblings. It's going to be Anthony, Benedict, Colin. All 3 of those seasons are out. Daphne, her season's also out. Eloise, Francesca, Hyacinth, and Gregory. Or is it Gregory and then Hyacinth? You can't quote me there. In season 3, we are introduced to Michaela, who was previously Michael Sterling, who is John's cousin. Okay, so now that you have the background of everything, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. We need to get into why people are extremely upset, and there are some points in which I do understand why some people are upset, but there are also points in which I do not. I'm seeing some homophobia. Let's get into it. Honestly though, why I think it's so cool and so important that we do have this representation, and when I say we, I mean the LGBT community or lesbians have this representation, is because you don't really see it too much on this scope. I think about Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is an amazing movie, Gentleman Jack, which is an amazing show. I think that was HBO Max. So many great shows and movies, but not on this scale. And what I really think making people upset is because it's the pretty sister, Francesca or Hannah Dodd, being the lesbian rather than it being Eloise, already kind of like a man hater and hates marriage, always has her head buried in books. This is who people wanted to be a lesbian. This is who people see and view how people view lesbians, which, let's talk about it, they really do. And it is true. I do think people are honestly upset. They're all masked. All of these things that they're saying, they're masked. It's a mask. I think about them talking about infertility. How can she not still struggle with infertility? Like, she's still a woman, even if she's gay. She's still Francesca. Lesbian women also struggle with infertility, which is so weird that this is their forefront argument. This comment reads, as a gay woman whom is struggling with infertility, I think they are missing the whole point of the show. What point? In making Francesca gay out of all of them is an easy write-off for her infertility. I'm gonna hold my thought. And I find that really insulting due to the time period. It doesn't make sense for the show. I'm sure that's meant literally any other character could be gay and it would work. What the fuck does that mean? Any other character could have been gay and it would work. What does that mean? I want to go back to this part right here where they said making Francesca gay out of all of them was an easy write-off. It totally was not an easy write-off. When I think about Francesca, again, she is the quiet, peaceful sister, the pretty sister. Making her gay was the most inconvenient thing they could have done to the Bridgerton fans. Respectfully, thank you for being respectful. It's not about her being gay, because the way I would not care if Eloise ended up with the female. That's the point. That is the entire point. They ruined one of the best male main characters of Bridgerton universe, and I won't forgive them for it. I've never read the book, and I don't plan on reading the book because the book is not my cup of tea. It's so interesting to see the different perspectives. Let's get into these videos. I'm excited to see this one. Why I refuse to watch the Michaela Francesca season of Bridgerton. Number 1, it undermines the infertility and widowhood arc. Francesca's original story is powerful because she wants children deeply. She struggles with infertility. She feels guilty loving her late husband's cousin. Okay, why can't that still be true? Hot take framing. Netflix removed one of the only mainstream romance arcs about infertility, grief, and widowhood desire. Women's survival depends on marriage. Okay, I mean, that's very true. This is very true. So your spicy take. If the ton barely tolerates interracial marriage, the queen's black. It feels like shock value over storytelling. I would love to hear your thoughts though. The books already had multiple untouched sibling romances. Francesca's story wasn't light or fluffy. It was nuanced and adult. None of these make sense to me because they just feel like a lot of dibbling, dabbling, and yapping about how they just would prefer anybody else to be gay than Francesca, which rightfully so. totally allowed to feel that way. Let's read the comments. Michaela's rude AF. She just got no, that's gotta be racist. Oh my god, somebody agrees. Despite them changing her gender, she's still based off the real Michael. Fertility plot was drawn out and it was talked about a lot in season 4. I mean, half of Francesca's scenes was her talking about her not being able to produce a child for John, and she literally had a breakdown about it. And after he died, she literally had a heart to heart with her mom and even confessed to her mom, like, you have 8 children. I didn't give John any. So not them making the most sexy, masculine, and the brutal man in Bridgerton books a woman. No, but actually, like, I don't know how he was supposed to be described. How can you do better than Masali Medusa? I don't really understand the issue with Michaela Sterling, because the main conflict of the book was that despite being in love with Francesca, Michael knew he could never have her even after John died, and that tormented him. And Francesca was super denying her feelings because she felt like it was wrong to have them for Michael. Doesn't making Michael Michaela add a whole other level of depth to this? Correct. And Francesca can still confront infertility during her time with John. I don't know, I just don't get the hate. I wanted to include this video in there because I don't want this whole video to just be about how, everybody hates Francesca and Michaela, because that's not the case. If you go on Twitter, you'll see that there's an entire different side of this story, which will make your heart grow 10 times the size, like your Grinch. Point of it that I'm looking at, it does add more depth, it adds more character, it's exciting, it adds something to Francesca's character. It's exciting and fun to see, but some of these points are very interesting, like this next one.
And I also was one of the people that didn't want Michaela to be with Francesca, but not for the reason you think. I think it's kind of slimy, almost like season 2 Bridgerton, Edwina, Anthony, Kate kind of story. Like, why would you wait? Like, why did you keep intruding on your cousin's space with his wife? You know what I mean? Why wait till he dies for you to then confess your feelings for Francesca? We haven't seen that yet, but I'm just saying, like, it's slimy, it's weird. I would love a Francesca and Michaela kind of story if Michaela wasn't John's cousin.
Hey, I don't know if she's never read the books. That's the entire point. I think people keep forgetting that Michaela is an adaptation of Michael, so they are the same people. They're not changing the heart of the story. They just changed the gender. So Michaela is Michael. Why Francesca and Michaela does not work?
From the showrunner perspective, from the show creator perspective, it feels very opportunistic rather than intentional. And the way in which their story is now being represented and reflected, to me, is not really great. That because she was introduced early, they are setting up for the potential of an emotional or physical affair between Francesca and Michaela. I mean, Francesca already seems
but how they
very
rolled it out like 2 years ago.
Very anxious anytime Michaela is in the room, which to me signals that she, whether knowingly or unknowingly, is starting to express or experience feelings. And Michaela on her end almost comes across as knowing the type of effect she has on Francesca. And to me, that sort of paints a infidelity storyline that I think.
Okay, so my question is, and for you guys, when do you think Michaela should have been introduced? I agree with some parts, but I don't agree with all. For example, when she's talking about how Francesca's having an affair with Michaela, no, none of this starts until after John dies. Like, I think years after John dies. And when I go back to John and Francesca, we are allowed to like John and Francesca, but they are John and Francesca. They still have their moments. They're still beautiful. They're still married. John is a very gentle man in the show, at least. I would love to go through the comments with you guys. I love the idea of Francesca and John's quiet love. The idea, it doesn't have to be sparks and fireworks. They ruined it right away. Francesca's love for John has been thrown away. She's emotionally cheated on John already, but she does so in the books. Oh my God. I think if Michaela was still Michael Sterling, nobody would say this. Nobody would have this outrage. It would be kind of like a normal, go on about your day, do your thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Cardinal rule of Bridgerton. The cardinal rule of love in Bridgerton is that you get one great love.
Yeah, well, obviously we know Francesca's not following the rules of her family, because where they have this dramatic, outspoken love, she's got this simple and quiet love. So we obviously know Francesca's different from her siblings.
Barry and Violet's dad, Violet and Edmund, Daphne, Simon, Kate, Anthony, Sophie, Benedict, Penelope Collin, so on. You get one. You might have other relationships, but you only get one great love that's like, the best, and like, that's it. That's all you get. Francesca, on the other hand, has John Sterling. He passes away, and we know canonically that she is then with Michaela, Michael in the books, but Michaela, and that might be an even greater love than what she has with John Sterling. The problem with that, the problem with having the
What's the
most
problem?
autistic character
Oh my
be the
God.
one to break the rules of the world is that she cannot deal with gray thinking. She gets very frustrated, as most neurodivergent people do,
Yes, she does.
and
I agree.
perplexed at the thought that her experience might not follow these rules that she internalized for herself. This idea that you only get one great love, and if you only get one great love and John Sterling died, then I don't get another great love. So why am I having love with Michaela that feels just as much, if not greater? How do I deal with that? The shame of feeling like you're not doing things properly. Francesca has that shame
Yes,
all the
I
time,
agree.
but especially in this relationship.
Yeah, and I do have to say it. Not only is it gonna be the shame of she feels like she didn't give John the children that he wanted. John is supposed to be her only and first great love, and he dies unexpectedly. But now it's a woman. That's unheard of.
The guilt of loving someone more or at the same amount as John Sterling, or the perception of that, the and then the adding of it being a queer relationship on top of that.
So let's read the comments. Hot take: John was not her great love. That is a hot take. What do you guys think about that? But John was not her great love. Yes, they loved each other, but it was quite a settled love. While I completely understand what she's trying to say, I don't agree with everything she's trying to say, which I think is normal. But it's a very interesting take how Francesca, you can't see, the gray area, which is true. Francesca does have an interesting way of handling some of her emotions, and we saw that in season 4 in a couple of episodes where she just kind of explodes and walks away when things aren't going her way. When I criticize the way they're going about Francesca and Michaela and Bridgerton, and all of a sudden I hate women and I'm homophobe. The way they're making Francesca act like John is just a real close friend instead of the love of her life. Who is acting like this? And guys, I say all these things to say that I am extremely excited for their season to come out. I'm really excited to see what the Bridgerton writers do with this story. It's going to be very complex, and I really hope they don't back down to the haters because it's very interesting. A lot of their points make sense about the era and how this is going to work out, because obviously we have Benedict who kind of fell in love with Sophie, but it wasn't to men. It's going to be interesting, and I wish that these people just gave it a chance, gave it a hitting chance to flourish, instead of just automatically saying this is sloppy, this isn't going to work, they're not going to have a happy ending, everybody's going to hell. Everybody's going to hell, including you, Shonda. Because it's a show, I'm sure they can do something. I'm sure they can spin the hell out of this shit to make it like realistic. Obviously, they did it with fucking Sophie and Benedict. I'm sure they can do it with these two. Let me know what you think. I hope I wasn't too biased in this opinion of mine. But I also hope you guys enjoy it. And if you guys even have opposing arguments to this story and you guys didn't like something of what I said, leave a dislike and comment in below why you dislike the video. Hit that bell button so you're not missing any of my post notification. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, love, and positivity. I'm out.